All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. We are here today every week at noon Pacific Standard Time to make my apprenticeship and Joanna's mentorship public to the people. And we are continuing on with the education and the journey of better health in all of the ways. And today we are going to continue on from last week about this healthy mind chatter. And we want to go deeper and talk about how we can support healthy mind chatters. So that is our topic for today. Welcome and thank you, Joanna, for being here, and take it away.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. So last week, we were talking about your mind chatter and how it matters. And if you haven't seen that one, it's up on my YouTube I Live Vibrantly channel, as well as the I Live Vibrantly Facebook page. And so if you're just tuning in today, you won't be totally lost, but I do recommend going back and listening to that one as well too, just so you can put the two together so that they're more potent and powerful for you, and you can actually get a better depth of understanding of why we're talking about what we are today, which is, how we can support healthy mind chatter. And so, we've been touching on how everything we say and think plays a huge role in how our bodies are responding, whether responding in a positive way or in a less positive way, whether they're supporting us to thrive or whether there is some disconnection, disharmony, imbalance, or whatever going on there as well too. And so one of the favorite people, I mean, there's many out there that talk about our minds and the role that they play and how we can support ourselves through healthy mental conversations. One of my favorites, though, is Louise Hay. And I think she's also a name that a lot of people are familiar with. And her work is pretty profound and has been, pretty mainstream and out there for quite a while now as well, too. Actually, I've been referencing her work since I first started out in this field, like over 20 years ago. So, this is tried and true as well, too. And so I have two of her books here today that I wanted to share with you all. And this one here is called The Power is Within You. And this is more of just kind of like a whole actual, like very easy to read and simple book that goes into a little bit more in depth about our minds and how we speak to ourselves and so on. So for example, some of the chapters in here is the introduction, the power within, following my inner voice, the power of your spoken word, programming old tapes. And that's in part one, which is becoming conscious. And then part two is dissolving the barriers, understanding the blocks that bind you, letting your feelings out, moving beyond the pain. And then part three, loving yourself, how to love yourself, loving the child within, growing up and getting old. And then part four, applying your inner wisdom, receiving prosperity, expressing your creativity, the totality of possibilities. And then the final part five is letting go of the past. Change and transition, a world where it's safe to love each other. And even though this book has been around for such a long period of time, you can get a feeling for how important and how vital all of these topics are, even in our present time. And I would say how even more so they are crucial to the present times that we are living in, because there's just so much more stress in our worlds today, coming at all of us, no matter who we are or where we live or what we do. There's just all these different stressors that are coming in constantly, and our minds are just like a continual feedback loop that are constantly working. And the idea is to be conscious of this and be mindful of it. And so I just wanted to read a little bit from chapter 3, The Power of Your Spoken Word. Every day, declare for yourself what you want in life. Declare it as though you have it. The law of the mind. I believe that when we think a thought or when we speak a word or sentence, it somehow goes out from us into a law of mind and comes back to us as experience. We are now beginning to learn the correlation between the mental and the physical. We are beginning to understand how the mind works and how our thoughts are creative. Our thoughts speed through our minds very quickly, so it is difficult to shape them at first. Our mouths, on the other hand, are slower. So if we can start editing our speech by listening to what we say and not letting negative things come out of our mouths, then we can begin to shape our thoughts. And I thought that was a really crucial element that I wanted to distinguish here, because exactly like I just said, a lot of times we're just, spinning out stuff constantly in our brains and in our minds. And it's a lot harder sometimes to tap into that, whereas it's a lot easier to tap into what's coming out of our mouth. Sometimes we don't catch it in time and it comes out of our mouth anyways, but being conscious and aware of that, catching that and reframing it as quickly as possible is really a key thing there. And so, changing our self-talk is another heading that she has in here. And I just wanted to read this little part here because it just kind of lays the foundation here for some of the stories that we start to develop even as young children. So too often we accepted the early messages that our parents gave us. We heard, eat your spinach, clean your room, make your bed, in order to be loved. You got the idea that you were only acceptable if you did certain things. That acceptance and love were conditional. However, that was according to somebody's idea of what was worthwhile and had nothing to do with your deep inner self-worth. You got the idea that you could only exist if you did these things to please others. Otherwise, you did not have permission to even exist. These early messages contribute to what I call our self-talk, the way we talk to ourselves. The way we talk to ourselves inwardly is really important because it becomes the basis of our spoken words. It sets up the mental atmosphere in which we operate and which attracts to us our experiences. If we belittle ourselves, life is going to mean very little to us. If we love and appreciate ourselves, then life can be a wonderful, joyous gift. And then she goes on to speak in more detail, about this and how we can begin to just notice a lot of things. And that's always what I like to stress with clients and with people when I'm teaching and so on, is the first step to anything really is the noticing part. Because for the most part, we've just been going about our lives, la, 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 very, unawares and unconscious and not really tapped into necessarily everything that we are doing, thinking, speaking, and experiencing in the moment. And so what we're trying to highlight here is the idea to just really come back home into ourselves and be present and be aware and start noticing. That's the first step, is noticing. So, throughout the day, as you're moving through your day, what are you saying to yourself? I mean, I know personally, I have like a running commentary going 24/7 all the time. And I don't think I'm alone in that, based on the conversations I've had with a lot of my clients and so on. And especially, I think as women, we tend to like really get caught in that cycle of constantly rehashing things, going over things, reliving stories and experiences kind of over and over again. And sometimes that can be good if we are looking at it from the perspective of, what can I change about that experience to make it a more positive one as a story that I'm storing in my body? And then also, if I'm in that same situation in the future, how can I create a different response instead of a reaction based on my previous stories? And so this is where the noticing comes in. And that's the first thing. Just as you're going through your day, notice, what are you saying to yourself? Sometimes I catch myself just really being mean to myself, and just being very negative about how I handled the situation, or even just what's running through my mind in the moment, and rehashing things, not necessarily in a positive way. And I catch myself and I'm like, oh, what am I doing? Like, what is that all about? And just kind of looking at that. And it's not necessarily like, oh my God, I'm a horrible person. And then we can start the judgmental pieces and start shaming ourselves, right? And that's not what this is about at all. Love is the key word and frame here. So we really cannot, and this is something that is a concept that hasn't really been highlighted so much as it is in our modern times right now. And that's the framework that we truly cannot express love for anything or anyone else if we do not first and foremost understand how to love ourselves. And so that's a really, really key distinguishing piece right there, is do we show that same love for ourselves that we give out to everybody else? Do we show ourselves that same level of consideration, that same level of respect, that same level of grace? And so a lot of times, I'm speaking also from personal experience, I was very conscious of how I treated other people and how I spoke to other people, but I didn't apply that back to myself. And so in looking at these love notes or symptoms, that I refer to as love notes, this is our love language. And you'll hear me say this over and over and over and over again. This is the love language that our body is using to get our attention and to communicate with us. And that's that first line of dialogue that is being offered to us as an opportunity to open that up and look at what is it, that we are continuously saying to ourselves. And this ties into that whole element of what we've spoken about before. So for example, we have, our bodies are trying to get our attention. We are experiencing something in the moment. And a lot of times the first thought is, oh my God, I'm broken. I need to fix it. What's wrong? How can I, what do I need to change? Blah, 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 and so on. And we start this whole dialogue and this narrative around this little piece of communication that is starting for us in the moment. And instead of getting anxious and worried and thinking that we're broken and that something is wrong, we need to remember that everything our bodies do is perfect and a miracle and in response to something that is going on within us. And it's usually a reaction initially to a thought or something that we experienced in the moment, and we've tied it all up into this potentially traumatic experience within our body. And so this is how we often get triggered too, because when we are having a experience that is not necessarily positive, everything that is going on in the moment is being collected as part of that experience. So whatever you're smelling, whatever you're feeling, whether it's like, cold or warm, whatever we're eating in the moment, all of these things become part of that experience and get stored in the body as part of that experience and that story. And so this is where being mindful of how we are communicating with ourselves throughout this experience really comes into play, because that's going to make the difference of how our body is going to respond to whatever is happening in the moment, not just in that moment, but forever in the future. Because if we have these experiences and these stories laid down in our bodies and are connected to all of these different things, a lot of things can be triggered. So you smell that smell again, and all of a sudden your body is reliving that whole experience on an emotional level. You hear a tone of voice, you hear a sound, you taste something, and again, it's triggering all of the elements that were connected to that are laid down in that story in our bodies. And so this is why our minds are such an important aspect of our health. And we touched a lot more about that last week in our conversation. So again, go back and watch that one too, just to kind of get the background and the concept of that. And so one of my favorite, actually, before I even go into that, I just wanted to tie in another piece here too. And just remind all of us that our organs and our systems within our bodies are tied into emotions and thoughts, and everything as well too. And so this is how they go hand in hand. So what I wanted to do really quick, and this is based off of Chinese TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, 5-element theory, and each organ has an emotion as well as a season connected to it. And we've spoken about the seasons before, and briefly mentioned the emotions, but I want to go back and just kind of read through this real quick for you so that you have the connection of the organs with the emotion. And so oftentimes what happens is if we are stuck in, say, a negative feedback loop, and we are experiencing certain emotions within that, we are actually stressing out the organ that's connected to those emotions as well too, and vice versa. So it goes both ways. And so just as a little reminder here for you all, we have the wood element, which is liver, and the emotion associated with that is anger. Then we have the fire element, which is heart, and the emotion associated with that is joy. Now, this is like, we could go into a whole single conversation and like hours long of conversation about this, but remembering that we are talking about emotions being imbalanced, and so joy is actually something that can become imbalanced as well too, and show up in a way that's not supporting us. And I just wanted to highlight that because a lot of people don't really think about that or put that concept together. Okay, next is earth, and that is our spleen, and worry is the emotion that's connected to that. Next is metal, which is lung, and that one is grief. The last one is water, kidney, and the emotion is fear. And so those are like the primary emotions that we often experience. And we can, experience all of them within like a 5-minute period of time as well too. Our emotions kind of come and go. And that's really an interesting thing as well too. If you look at the example of animals and young children, something happens, they feel an emotion, they fully express it, they feel it. And then 2 seconds later, they've moved on. It's gone. They're doing something else, and they're laughing and giggling or just going back to grazing and are totally happy again. And as adults, that is so much more difficult. We get so stuck in these loops of, what's going on in the moment. And so this is a little bit of a gentle reminder to be present, be aware. And yes, it's good to, acknowledge what is happening in the moment, reframe it as necessary, and then move on. But the reframing part is really important because in order to be able to let it move through us and let go of it, we want to have created a positive experience with that so that we are resetting basically, every level. Even this affects us at such a cellular level too. So this is very important to be able to do that. Then we can let it just wash through us and move through us without hanging on to it, without holding on to all of that baggage, and then move on to the next thing, right? So much easier said than done. I absolutely 100% acknowledge that. And, there is no perfection in any of this. It's something that I still work on all the time. We've had these patterns and these habits that have become ingrained in us over the course of a lifetime. And the longer we've been here living this life and experiencing this life, the more stories we have and the more, we tend to get caught up in these things. And so this is a continuous practice. And that's where the awareness comes in, because it's something that we always need to be aware of. It's not like, oh, one and done, fixed, we're good. So just something to keep in mind. And then the last book that I wanted to highlight here is Louise Hay's Heal Your Body. Now, this is a super, thin little book. And, I have used this, I've used this in my personal life and in my practice since day one. And the title on the front cover is Heal Your Body, the mental causes for physical illness and the metaphysical way to overcome them. And so, we're talking about creating positive feedback loops and turning, potentially something that we are running as a story that's in a more negative state into a positive state. How do we do that? Where do we begin? For some of us, it's really easy to start reframing these things into more positive affirmations. But for a lot of us, it isn't. And I know for myself, in the beginning, I was like, what the heck is a positive affirmation? Like, how do I create that? What am I supposed to do? And so that's why I really love this book so much. And what she does and what it has, it's very... like I said, the whole book is like a little reference book, basically. And so I don't know if you can see that there, get it in front of my screen here. So she has 3 different headings across here, and they are, as she calls it, the problem, which is the love note, potentially, that your body is sending you. The probable cause. Now, it's not like this is written in, stone, and if you are experiencing, this particular love note, then this is what's happening with you. But it's a way to get you thinking and kind of going back into your own experience and reading this and going, does that resonate? Does that feel right? And if not, potentially opening the door for you to be able to dive deeper into, where the emotional and mental cause of what you're experiencing could be coming from. And then my favorite part she has here is new thought pattern. And so for each one of these, she lists a positive affirmation, like several of them. So, you can begin to have a foundation to rewrite your own positive affirmations. So for example, let's use allergies here. So under allergies, and it also says see hay fever. That is under the problem category or the love note category. And then probable cause, the question that's asked here is, who are you allergic to? Denying your own power. Very interesting, right? And so it may not be specifically tied into that, what you're experiencing, but hopefully something like that allows you to open the door for your own thought processes and your own questions to be able to dive a little deeper. And then the positive affirmation for that is, the world is safe and friendly. I am safe. I am at peace with life. And so we can see the example of reframing that and how we can begin to create a new language and meet ourselves in that place of love. And that's why I call them love notes and love language, because it's our bodies asking for love and asking us to meet them in that place of absolute, unconditional, non-judgmental, compassionate love. And so the other thing I just wanted to highlight here at the end of the book that's, I think, is really awesome too, is that it has a whole chart in here of your entire, never know which, there we go, of your entire spine. And each part and each vertebrae and everything through here, it lists the areas of the body that part of your spine affects. Or that part of the body that is connected to that vertebrae. And then it lists some of the effects of when we are out of balance. And so, we're talking about how important the mind is and what a crucial piece that is. But also keep in mind, like I said, it goes both ways. And so the mind affects the body and the body affects the mind. And so it's a circular, as is everything. It's these cycles, and they're all connected. It's like these little spirals, and they just go round and round and round and round. And so what we want to do is be able to create these really healthy feedback loops, basically, that are supporting us to thrive and to live a vibrant life, as opposed to experiencing distress, disease, and a lot of other things as well too. And so I think I'm going to end it right there today, and see if there's any questions about any of that, and hope that you're beginning to see how, really living a vibrant life and being our most vital selves, there is no quick fix. There is no take a pill and it's all good. There is no just focusing in on one specific area, say diet, for example, which is what a lot of people hone in on. It's all of the elements. It's all of the pieces. We are these like just absolutely miraculous, magnificent beings. And we don't even begin as humans at this point in our trajectory to understand really that concept of what we are capable of and who we really are as, these magical beings. But this is a first step of really just tapping into yourself and getting to know yourself, and truly coming from a place of love for yourself, so that you can in turn put that back out into the world.
Wow, thank you so much, Joanna. That's really all such great information. I didn't get the book names written in the banner descriptions, but I have had it in there a few times. It is Louise Hay's, who's a great resource, and you can go back into the video and see them, Joanna. You could also put them up again, and if anyone wants to know the exact one to
I can, once they're up, I can put it in the comments too, on my Facebook page and on the YouTube page. I'll put it in the comments. So this is Louise Hay's, The Power is Within You. And the other one was Louise Hay, Heal Your Body.
Yeah, great. And she also has stuff on YouTube. I don't know if it's her putting it up or other people putting up sections of her things, but by chance, coincidence or cyclical connection of all things, she showed up on my YouTube algorithm last night, and it was a really great one. And if I remember, I can also put it in the notes, because it was like a really powerful one that was similar to this. I thought if we could just take a few moments. So there was one thing I wanted to just mention. First of all, this is so connected to the conversation that I had with Pete, my hypnosis mentor, earlier today. It was about the pros and cons of change. And, it was all very connected. I don't remember exactly what I wanted to say about that, but just there's a lot of similarities that'll probably come back to me. But one thing that I did want to talk about also was this, on the topic of like the patterns of talk and self-talk. One little tip that has come into my awareness recently that I've been using is, when you get into the noticing and the learning, to notice and just be aware, then a step that's really been helpful for me is to just name it. That's the old pattern. And so then by doing that, it's not just something that's happening to me that is like its own force. It actually can be confined into a label or a box, which then gives me the opportunity to introduce or leave space open for a new pattern. Yeah. So I just wanted to offer that, because it's something that has been helpful for me. And it's been so fun to go, that's the old pattern. I see you. That's the old pattern. And then it's like, and a new pattern is, can be, will be, is now, however it wants to be expressed.
That's excellent.
So yeah, I just was really happy with that tool. And so I just wanted to share that.
Perfect. And I was just, sorry. Yeah, that just made me think of something too that I was actually thinking about this morning was, we go through life and we create these habits and these patterns. And an interesting thing that a differentiation that I really came to a while ago was that Habits and patterns are often things we do mindlessly and unconsciously.
Yeah.
But rituals, ceremony, practices are things that we have to be present for. So sometimes even just reframing the way we approach something, even if it's something we do every day, in our lives. That's why for example, I call my morning practice or morning rituals, because I have to be present and I have to be mindful. And I've caught myself, over the years of doing the same practice over and over again. And all of a sudden I'm mindlessly doing my practice. And I'm like, oh my God, like that just completely, pretty much defeats the whole purpose of what I'm doing. And so noticing too, the need to change things up as we go along as well. So we don't become stuck in these, something that started out as a beautiful practice becoming a mindless, unconscious, habit or pattern. And those things have their place. But when it comes to our health and ourselves and our beings, we want to be mindful. We want to be present. We want to be aware, because it's so crucial, not only, like I said, to the moment, but to the future as well, too, and how we're going to go through the rest of our lives, basically. And so that was something I just wanted to highlight, which is why, like, even like washing my dishes for me is like a ritual. And I, have things around that I do to bring my consciousness and my awareness to that moment so that I can just thoroughly enjoy that moment instead of going, oh my God, here I am washing dishes again. Right. So just,
Or even giving, it's like if you're doing the dishes and you allow that habitual pattern to just circle and stuff that is so unhealthy and unhelpful for you, it's an opportunity to let your mind go to do something that would be helpful for you.
exactly.
And since we're past our mark, I figure for next week it would be really great for me, for my own learning, and I think for other people, especially people like me, who want, like, the proof is in the pudding. So, for example, it's all great to hear, oh, positive affirmations and just think positively and the life will change, the universe will show you these things. It's like, um it's really nice for me, and I think some other people too, to hear some examples. And I would say that I definitely have a few from working with you, um, ways that, um, ways that you helped, support me and push me to think different ways or even put my intention or actions into different ways. And it really, really did. My body responded. And I think that for a skeptic or someone who hasn't yet connected in with that, it might not, it might seem like something nice to read, but like, how does it actually work? So I would love to share the few of my stories, and it would be great if you wanted to too, and any like anonymous clients, so that
Okay.
people who are um, wanting to do the work can be encouraged by some of these stories,
Okay. Yeah, and I have my own personal, I have a pretty dramatic personal story around that as well too. So I'd be happy to share that and share some of my clients' experiences anonymously as well too.
Yeah, that would be super great. Well, as always, thank you so much for taking the time and space out of your amazing, beautiful farm life and, all the people you support. And so,
Thank you. It's an
anyone
honor to be
who,
here.
that's so great. Anyone who's interested in learning more about Joanna and her work, she has her I Live Vibrantly Facebook page that I have up on the screen, as well as her book, which you can find by searching Amazon. And that's, a great, very easy read with a lot of great information.
Yeah. And
And
just a quick note on that, if you're in Canada and you're searching on the Canadian Amazon for my book, do not pay more than $14 for it, please. There is somebody selling it at a much higher cost, and that was not my intention. My intention was to make this book affordable to anybody and everybody all over the world. So if you get the digital version of it and you have Prime, it is free. And otherwise, it's like $1. And then if you get the print copy in the States, you shouldn't be paying more than $10. And in Canada, you shouldn't be paying more than $14. I'm not sure about other parts of the world, but it's recently come to my attention that there are options to buy it at a much higher rate. So please do not spend that kind of money on it. I made it affordable for all of you for a reason. So just, check through and look for the lower cost in it. And actually it was been on sale on the US Amazon site. I think it was down to like $6 or something for the book. So, great value for the knowledge that you'll gain and the information and just the way that it'll introduce you to potentially different thought processes and concepts as well too, not just around food, but around our entire lives and everything that I always speak about. It's the foundation of everything that I teach, really.
Yeah, the foundation where the pillars stand upon that as we go week by week. We'll continue with that. And as well as the Cyclical Wisdom for the Modern Woman program. Is that something that people can look for right now?
I am actually in the process of revising it. Okay. And so all of my courses are going through a little bit of an update right now. And they will be all relaunching in September is the goal. I don't have an exact date yet. It's been a little crazy on the farm this summer. And so I am doing the best that I can. And September is when I am have set my intention to be able to re-release these things. And so, like I said, I am just kind of reconfiguring things, putting them together in a different way. And again, my goal and my intention with what I'm doing in the background with all of this right now, because I have courses, we have a community. There's just so much there. And I want that all to be available to everybody in an economical way. And so I am looking at how I can potentially do that and get that all to you. So you have access to all of that, as well as to the one-on-one work that I do through the mentorship programs also. So I'll keep you up to date on that. And we'll let you know as soon as we have a launch date for that as well too. And it's very exciting things coming your way. So stay tuned.
Great. So yeah, anyone who, has any questions, the best way to get them answered and to get started is just through here. And, if you want to do deeper work, if Joanna has time, she can. But in the meantime, this is the place to really do it. So we encourage you to share this with anyone you think that might gain value in what we're offering. There's a playlist on my YouTube site that everything's kind of put together. It's also on Joanna's social media pages. And then, of course, like, share, comment, and subscribe so that we can grow and get all this information out. So Any last words from you today, Joanna?
No, I think I've pretty much said everything. If I say anything more, I think I'll start into a new discussion. So we'll just end it right here.
Great. Thanks again for coming, and see you next week. And thanks, everybody.
Okay. Bye, everybody. Take care.